Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the stage. It's Friday, and so it's a final day of the week. Today's episode promises to be another educative one. We'll be dealing with one of the national issues that has been going round and round and round. This is what we'll be discussing today on the stage. It's brought to you by the Christian Service University located in Kumasi. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back after the break.
The Christian Service University, a fully chartered private university in Ghana, is inviting applications for admission. Undergraduate programs include BSc Nursing and Midwifery, Computer Science, Information Technology, Bachelor of Business Administration, BA Communication Studies, Planning and Social Development, and Theology with Administration. Postgraduate programs include MSc in Accounting and Finance, Monitoring and Evaluation, Corporate Planning and Governance. We have MA MPhil Communication Studies, MA Christian Ministry with Management, Event Management, MPhil English and Mathematics Education. With quality, faculty and state-of-the-art facilities, we blend academic work with entrepreneurial mindset in all our programs. For more information, please call 0246 275375, 0240 154825, or 0244 596603, or visit our website www.csuc.edu.gh. CSU is located at Odenaho Kwadaso on the Kumasi-Obuasi Road, 100 meters off Star Junction. Choose CSU today to secure the future of Africa.
And to make him better known. That's
Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us again. And this is where we bring you some of the briefs of what we intend discussing later this afternoon. And so straight to our screens. And what are we discussing today? Well, the facts of this matter is that the Article 286 of Ghana's 1992 Constitution mandates public office holders to declare their assets and liabilities. And so today we are talking about the asset declaration regime. Then Public Office Holders Declaration of Assets and Disqualification Act 1998, Act 550, outlines the specific requirements and procedures for asset declaration. Some of the key public office holders required to file assets declarations are the President, the Vice President, members of Parliament, ministers, judges, ambassadors, and heads of public corporations, among others. Now, public office holders are expected to file their assets declaration forms with the Auditor General's office before taking office every 4 years and at the end of their tenure. And so whatever you have to go and declare, and then later when you are maybe voted out or at the end of the first term you were given, you would go back and then, update it and all that. So the primary goal of Ghana's asset declaration regime is to prevent corruption by monitoring changes in public officials' wealth during their tenure. And so during the period of you assuming office as an MP, as a vice president, as a president, or as any office, a public office holder, this is the reason why you need to file your or declare your assets. Now, many people have, however, argued that the current regime is faced with some limitations, making it ineffective. Others have attributed it to the law itself. Arguments against the current asset declaration regime includes limited coverage, non-disclosure of filed assets, frequency of filing, poor sanctioning regime, among others. And so these are some of the reasons. Well, in the wake of President Mahama's recent directive to his appointees to file their asset declaration form, we ask, will that be enough to prevent corruption by state officials? Well, we'll dig into this later. So these are some of the things we'll be discussing right here on the stage. I would urge you to pick your seats and then just sit behind the television set. Let's have a beautiful discussion. Remember, you can also leave us a comment on Facebook or on any of our social media platforms. Thank you so much. We'll be back here. The States this afternoon, but we will be discussing Ghana's asset declaration regime, and we'll dig into the merits, the deficiencies, and the proposed reforms that some critics have also given out. I have been joined by 𝗟𝗓𝗡, who is an anti-corruption campaigner, right on phone. But in the studio, I have been joined by 𝗟𝗓𝗡, who is a legal practitioner. And so this afternoon, these two gentlemen would help us delve deeper into what the law states and, of course, what they think will be the right way forward. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Adam, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right, so we'll start with you as an anti-corruption campaigner. Well, the president has directed all his appointees to do well to file their assets. Other critics have also come out, like the former Auditor General is saying that, well, it came a little bit too late for such a statement, because they should have filed their assets before assuming office. What do you make of this particular statement?
Well, I don't know that they have assumed office. As far as I know, they are going through vetting. They are now going to be confirmed. If confirmed, they will now then take up office. It is at that point that it will be important for them to pick up the forms, complete the processes, and then they would have done what is right. So I kind of think that it's confusing if you suggest that they should have done this already.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. But what do you think would be the reason why the president would have directed these appointees to file their assets at this particular time? Hello, Adam. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. So let's come back to the studio. Kwesi.
Yes, please.
As we have rightly said, the president has directed all the appointees to do well to file their assets. What does the law state when it comes to declaration of assets?
Okay, so typically this whole regime of declaration of assets stems from the Constitution of Ghana.
Okay.
Where in Article 286, the law mandates all public officers
Okay.
Not all per se, but a specified group, which is quite broad, to declare their assets upon assumption of office to the Auditor General. Okay. And this is also repeated in Act 550, which is the Public Office Holders Declaration of Assets and Disqualification Act, 1998. So that as a public officer, once you assume office, you have a stated time, I think it's 6 months or so, to declare all your, not just assets, but assets and liabilities to the Auditor General within that specified time. And failure to
explain the assets and then explain the liabilities to us.
So that the asset means in business terms, so assets are the things you own. And the assets are just not restricted to land or buildings, even interest in companies, among others. If you should look at the Act 550, it provides for that, so that if you have beneficial interest in any company, you are supposed to declare that, not just buildings, cars, or anything. Yes. And for the liability to be maybe your debt or something. See, the whole policy reason behind this is to know that you didn't, through unlawful means, gain any asset. That if at the time of assumption of office you have maybe X amount of liabilities, then after your 4 years or after the term in office, it comes that you don't have any of the liabilities. Now we have to ask the question, how are you able to clear these liabilities? And that is why you don't only declare the asset, but you also declare your liabilities, any debt, any obligations and encumbrances you have to declare. So.
Now, in your earlier submission, you made mention of the number of people under that particular act that are supposed to declare their assets. Can you enumerate them for us? Okay,
not unless I refer, but basically the president is part, the vice president, all ministers of state, heads of state-owned institutions are part.
So you're talking about CEOs?
Yes, CEOs of state-owned institutions, which has now, I think we'll get has been criticized in the old act. And then we also have the Chief Justice and all justices of the Superior Court and other key officials of government-owned entities and members of parliament who are supposed to declare their assets.
As a legal practitioner, why these category of people? Why should they declare their assets?
Okay. So in my humble view, these people are, in layman's terms, you say they are closer to the national cake.
Okay.
Yes, also. And these people are the public officers with whom we hold, or they hold accountability to us.
Okay.
So they declaring their assets brings about a sanitary system, a transparent system, because you have to know what they have. Okay. The normal public officer, the normal civil servant in the office, it's not required by law to declare the asset yet, because they are just normal public servants. But the decision makers, those at the top, the CEOs, the MPs, they are quite exposed to a chunk of funds, usually drawing from the consolidated funds also. So, and they are susceptible to misappropriation of funds, most likely, since the funds come to them. So it is just expedient that they declare their assets so that we would know what they had before they came into office, or at the time they came into office, and what they have at the end of the term of the office. Since the law is not only requiring of you to declare the assets at the beginning of your office, but at the end of the office too, so that we just oppose it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would this be? The fact that you had probably X number of cars or X number of houses, and then at the end of the 4-year term, you have about 6 or 10.
Yes.
What would that do to us?
What to do to us? Assuming you had 2 cars.
Okay.
And then at the end of the term, so let's say at the end of the term, you had now 10, maybe 10 brand new Land Cruisers. That's what you acquired within the 4-year term. Now we have to make the reconciliation. How much was your salary? How much was your allowance? So we will have to just oppose all the legally obtained monies you received or funds you received during the 4-year term. Is it able to acquire those assets you have at the end of your tenure? If it's not able to acquire, then it means you may have used other means to acquire the assets.
What if that person has some other businesses?
Yeah, so that is when, so the fact that you have acquired more than necessary doesn't mean you are wrong or anything. You have to justify. So if you cannot provide any good justification to the Auditor General on how you have amassed all those assets within the specified period, then that is when maybe you can be referred to the regulatory authorities, which is charged or the Chief Justice, depending, to make a determination. But once you can provide explanations sound in law and then within the confines of the law on how you acquired, because we all acquire assets, even those of us not in public institutions acquire assets. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Adam, thank you for joining us again. But what do you make of the current assets declaration regime?
Well, it is certainly not fit for purpose. In terms of the international best practice, we expect that when persons file, there should be verification of what they have filed. So we are ascertaining that have they actually captured everything that they own at that point. And not just that, but there should also be publication, which means that there is a website or a place at which anybody who is a citizen and so minded can go and confirm that the items and properties and assets as captured reflect everything. If you take jurisdictions just like Nigeria, they are already doing this very well. So any citizen, that's the beauty of it. It means that you are not just dependent on the public sector staff to confirm, but any citizen who has information can go and check and then provide information if what has been reflected is not the entire set of assets that the person owns.
What is your reason for saying that this current law is not up to speed?
Because we don't have verification and we don't have publication. Those are the two gaps, key gaps in our current legal architecture. People fill the form, put it in an envelope, and is given to the Auditor General. Until and unless somebody asks, there's no real verification, which means that if you don't have the baseline verification, if at a subsequent point, if the person chose to inflate those figures in the first instance, you will not be able to tell the difference. So these two things are key gaps in the current regime.
Interesting one. If we are supposed to change the law, just as the president has said that there will be a constitutional review committee and this law is changed, what do you think should be included? The verification you said or the publication?
Yes, the two are what is necessary. So I chose to speak on just the two.
Okay. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Hi, I'm here.
Yes. So currently the law that we have, what is it? What is in it that you know, and what can be done about it? Hello, Adam. Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, I thought you were talking to somebody else.
No, I'm talking to you.
Yes. So it needs to clearly spell out that there will be a team, a unit within the Auditor General that is mandated to follow up when you fill the form, confirm that these are actually it, and in addition to that, the publication should be done on, say, a website, a place that is accessible by the majority of citizens, so that anybody who has information can go and check whether something is missing. That way, we are quite sure that the baseline has been well captured, and then subsequently, at a point of exit, you can review and say, okay, now you have 5 more houses or cars. We'll compare with your income, your sources of income, the legitimate ones, and see whether you could have purchased and owned all these assets within the period.
So currently the president stating this particular or giving this prompts that all ministers or all appointees should go in and file their assets. We are looking at a space of 6 months, because that, just as the law said, in a space of 6 months you should be able to declare your asset. What should they do about it? Should they go ahead and file it? Should they wait until the 6 months elapses?
Oh, no, they should do so immediately. That's what is expected. As soon as any of them are confirmed, they receive a letter confirming their appointment, they ought to follow the process and complete that. Ideally, within 2 weeks, they should make sure they complete it. That way, then wherever you are, anyone asks you this question, you have covered what is necessary.
But we would ask again, how well is this going to help fight corruption and also aid governance?
It will, because the public officer knows that at the exit point, we are going to do a comparison of whether what properties they now say they have, whether those properties could have been earned. So you have a fixed income which can only cover a certain number of things. If all of a sudden the fixed income is far less than the additional properties or assets you own, then you need to tell us where the income streams that generated the additional resources for you to purchase that item came from. And that's the issue. Once public offices are clear that we're going to check that, then you be very careful about taking monies that don't belong to you, or taking any actions that will then somebody somewhere can report to the state that you have additional resources or assets somewhere.
So much. We'll get back to you again. Let's come to you, Kwesi. Looking at the current regime and then what the law states, I mean, there should be some form of monitoring even before the 4-year tenure ends or the first term ends. What does this law really state, and what is in it that is bringing a lot of brouhaha around this particular issue of asset declaration?
So the current law provides 3 instances where you have to declare assets.
Yeah.
At the beginning of your term or on the assumption of office.
Okay.
After 4 years and at the end of your term.
Okay.
So that even if your term is not limited to 4 years, but it's more than 4 years, you only declare the asset after 4 years. And this is what is bringing the whole brouhaha. Because 4 years is a lot of time for manipulation and to do a lot. So that some critics of the current law are saying that it should be annually. Okay. That is one of the criticism. And to add to what Adam said, another criticism, and which I also share, is the coverage of the act. Because you realize that the current act only covers the holder of the position. It doesn't cover anybody else. But you come to other laws or other acts in Ghana, like Anti-Money Laundering Act, even our own Income Tax Act, it has something known as associate of the person, or in the Anti-Money Laundering, they use politically exposed persons. Now, I am the public officer. I declare my assets, but my family doesn't declare the assets.
But your family is not there with you. Your family is not part of the office.
So that if within my tenure, I won't acquire any property, I can acquire it using my wife's name or that of my children. And at the end of the 4 years, when I'm redeclaring my assets, I just declare assets in my name and not my associates or those close to me. That's another criticism I share in. That it shouldn't necessarily be only the holder, but the holder and the associate. It would always be difficult to find the clear balance, because I mean, you don't know who my friend is. But at least that would bring more transparency in the system. At least if it's the holder and the family of the holder, I think that helps. No,
are you talking about the immediate family or the extended family?
The immediate.
Because then,
then I'm saying there can never be a very clear balance. Or even if you should make it extended family, then I can decide to use my friends. But at least the coverage should be extended. Because I know, also based on trust, because I as a political officer or as a public officer would not just buy property in the name of anybody, but those close to me. And now with the current regime, I can even use my wife, if I'm married, buy all the properties in her name. At the end of the 4 years, so at the end of the thing, I come and declare the same asset I declared at the beginning. You just look at the declaration and then you make the point that, okay, he didn't acquire anything extra. But I had actually squandered money and then acquired it in the name of my wife or my child. So coverage, I think the coverage of the law is quite a shortfall. Because if you should go to countries like Tanzania, Kenya, Nigeria, they don't just declare the assets of the public office holder, but the immediate family and people we call who fall in the bracket of associates. So that if I'm a businessman,
so they're close friends and all that.
Yes. So if I'm a businessman, let's say somebody I have shares together with or something. Yes, theirs is quite expansive, and I think we can borrow from that. There was actually a new bill in Parliament during the 8th Parliament, the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, which Attorney General Godfrey Dame introduced, but it couldn't see the light of the day. And that coverage issue was even not catered for.
What would be the difference if that bill was passed into law?
If that bill was passed during the 8th Parliament,
during the 8th Parliament,
that bill would have regulated the declaration of assets for these current public office holders or the appointees of the president.
What would be the difference?
What would be the difference? That bill didn't bring a lot of difference. It was just trying to. That bill was not just for declaration of assets, but conduct of public officers in general. And declaration of assets was a part of that bill.
Conduct in terms of their attitude?
Yes, in terms of attitude, declaration of assets, disqualification, so that if you even look at the current law, there are certain persons who can't hold certain public positions. So that bill encompasses everything. I have not had a clear read of that bill, so I can't speak much to it. But that bill has also been criticized by a lot. That in terms of asset declaration, it didn't really tackle the issues of the current regime we have. So that if President Mohamed Stini, this 9th Parliament should want to reconsider introducing such a bill in Parliament, then there should be maybe a broader stakeholder consultation, and then all the issues coming up with matters like the frequency, the accessibility, where it is only declared to the Auditor General, and we the public we don't know. As Adam was saying, all those matters should be factored into a new regime. Should there be the need for one?
Are we saying that the information should be available to the public at any point in time?
That is what we are saying.
What would we do with that information?
What would we do with that information? Yes, we are the public.
Okay.
And you should know that in Article 1 and generally the country is being run for us. We are the sovereign. 70 resides in us. We should know what our leaders have, what our leaders have acquired within their 4 years, and what they have at the end of their tenure. It shouldn't be left to an entity, that is the Audit Service or the Auditor General. Be that as it may, even if it was declared to the Auditor General, and the Auditor General would have made it public, that is okay, as we have the annual Auditor General's report and things. But we realize that this declaration of assets, which is made by the public officials, they are never made public to us. So that we are here, we've had ministers in every term of Parliament or in every term of a president, but we've never had information about the asset regime of that minister, because we are not mandated by law to know. So the proposal is that it should be made public by the Auditor General. You can maybe fix it in this report, or there should be a system where the public gets to know.
Interesting one. Adam, let's come back to you. But you've mentioned a lot of weaknesses in this current law. Is there any correlation between these weaknesses and the current state of corruption in this country?
Oh yeah, it's because we have a free for all, no clear laws that work, no ability to monitor and cross-check when persons have taken advantage of the trap that we've reposed in them to prove their state. So, as a matter of in the studio, if you take the Quarcoo, the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, we were supposed to harmonize all the isolated laws in different silos. It would also have codified sanctions for misconduct, professional and ethical misconduct, which we don't have at the moment. So when a public officer breaches the professional code, is in a situation of conflict of interest, and yet goes ahead to give jobs out and to think, but when you get to court, it will be difficult for a clear ruling because we don't have it clearly spelled out in the law with sanctions. So the Quarcoo would have helped address that, include issues of reverse burden of things. At the moment, it's as if the state has done something wrong. But in most jurisdictions, like the United States of America, you need to demonstrate that the assets you've acquired it through legitimate sources of income, which are not criminal. So these are some of the very key things that a code of public officers law is needed for. And I hear in your question the sense of why would a citizen need all this information. The fact is, when you put yourself up for public office, what you are saying is that the public have the right to scrutinize everything you are going to do because you're going to do honest work with integrity, with respect for the people, and not taking anything that is not yours from the public. And so, once you decide to be a public officer, the citizens have the right to have access to what you are doing, what you have earned in terms of resources and assets, and to check if you are in any way depriving the state of resources that are not due to you.
Now, Adam, which examples can you give us that suggest that people have really exploited these weaknesses that you've mentioned?
I I don't know what you mean by which examples. You want me to name names of people who've done something like that?
Oh yes, I mean incidents of corruption you can mention.
Let me just give you one. It's the other case. You suddenly find somebody who has dollars, foreign exchange, property, and all kinds of stuff. And the person is not willing to explain how they came into possession of all of them. And this is something for state. We don't pay anyone in dollars in this country or foreign exchange. The quantum of foreign exchange is not the kind of quantum she could have earned through a legitimate source of income as a minister. The case was referred from the OSP to Yoko. Yoko is about the only institution in Ghana at the moment whose law includes a reverse burden of 2 trusts, but they refused to utilize it. In fact, the case didn't happen, which almost suggested that they were not paying attention to their updated law, because Parliament had upgraded their law and put right there the reverse burden of 2. But if you cannot prove that these money or assets were gained through legitimate sources, then it shall be considered as you have engaged in something criminal. So that's an example of how you can have a situation. And if the reason why OSP was not going to conclude the case was in their law at 959, there's no reverse burden of 2, which would have then immediately allowed you to insist that you have to prove the sources of these monies, etc. They referred to Yoko, and Yoko refused to take it on, claiming that the AG said you can't prosecute this matter.
Interesting one. Now, critics have also suggested a lifestyle audit of some public officials, and then, I mean, how they go about their daily duties. How crucial is this to the current discussion under assets declaration?
Is it to me?
Yes, to you, Adam.
Okay. Yes, the lifestyle audit will become possible on the back of ensuring that our legislation all includes the reverse burden. What that means, any citizen, not just public sector, but private sector, will begin to suspect that you are living above kind of cars, properties, travel, things you're engaged in, suggest that something untoward may be happening. We would then put out the unexplained wealth law that we seem to have unexplained wealth, and then we'll utilize the reverse burden of proof to say you must demonstrate how you have all this wealth. So the two go hand in hand, and definitely that is one of the ways in which you let people sit up and be sure that they're engaging in legitimate businesses and gaining resources from sources that are not criminal.
Okay. Adam, thank you so much. But we'll come back to you and you tell us who should be doing the audit and how often the audit should be done. Let's come back to the studio. Chrissy, over to you. Now, what are some of the examples you would suggest that could say that the public officials are exploiting the weaknesses of this current asset declaration?
Okay. So, one example I can cite is, exploring their weaknesses. A lot of businessmen don't usually use their details to register their entities.
What details are you talking about?
So that if I'm registering an entity as a businessman, I don't necessarily have to be the shareholder or beneficial owner. I can use an ally. Now, a politician, typically, if he wants to do any business, because as I was saying initially, so because the assets he's supposed to declare are things in his name, okay, if he's to use the details of someone else, as close as his wife, and then used to exploit the system, or squander some money or embezzle some funds.
You think that person will use any other person apart from his wife?
I'm just even using the example that even if I should use someone as close as my wife, even that one the Lord doesn't get to know.
Okay.
So how much more using someone way away from me, like my child, my friend or something. So that is one way by which they embezzle. And secondly is the 4-year tenure, the 4-year regime or the 4-year space in between which to declare your assets. Okay. There's a lot of happens within 4 years. Okay. And there are lots of manipulations of the system. They actually acquire assets, make transfers and things. There are lots of ways to if it was money laundering terms, we say layering. So there are a lot of ways to layer the transactions you make within that 4 years, in order that when you are redeclaring the asset the next 4 years, or at the end of your tenure, it would seem as if you've really complied with the system and that you've not embezzled any funds. And that is why the critics of the frequency angle come in. That because it's every 4 years, they think it should be something annually. And also the 6 month window given to them upon assumption of office is quite a lot.
Okay.
Yesterday, the former Auditor General, yes, he was saying that it shouldn't take you more than an hour to declare your asset, unless you're a multi-billionaire.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't take you more than an hour. So you're giving them 6 months. So that if, even as a normal businessman, I've entered politics today, and I have 6 months, that's up to June to declare my asset. That is a long time to make a lot of manipulations, cover some tracks, backdate. Those in PG, we say Ghana we day. There are a lot of ways to manipulate the system and declare good assets after the 6 months. So that is also another thing which I think they are exploiting, the 6 month window. So that if it could be shortened, you should be able to declare your assets in 2 weeks, in my view. I mean, the former Auditor General is saying 1 hour, but at most 2 weeks to gather documents and everything. Assets really belonging to you, legitimate assets. 2 weeks should be fine. So these are some of the loopholes which the current regime is allowing public officials to explore and manipulate.
Well, let's look at the critics stating that the lifestyle of these public office holders should be audited. Should it be? Because look at the amounts that they are taking. Look at their allowances and what have you. Should we still audit their lifestyle?
Personally, I may not, at least from a personal point of view,
okay,
I may not subscribe to that, because lifestyle is very subjective.
Okay.
So you may have all the money, but choose to live a modest lifestyle. You may also have not all that money, but choose to live a very expensive life. So auditing their lifestyle might not actually. And what I mean, the question I will ask is, what is the indicator for auditing their lifestyle?
Well, I mean, what if you are buying things that your salary cannot actually buy?
Yes. And that will not actually come into the lifestyle audit. When I was speaking earlier, I said that is the purpose of the whole regime. We just oppose what you've gotten, and then we ascertain what you've gotten, and we just oppose it with your salary. Okay. That is different. But if then the new roads minister, he is claiming that MPs are earning just 15,000. 15,000, someone can use to live a very lavish lifestyle. Every month, I will just spend the 15,000 on clothes and buy expensive things. I mean, someone can choose to do that. Can you say that because the person is wearing a lot of expensive things and changing attires every day, that means the person is taking money from somewhere or something? I don't think the lifestyle audit, I don't think it can really work.
But you know, just as we are, as those behind the main bosses and all that, we live within our means. We don't buy things that we cannot buy. We cannot buy things that the amount is not sitting right in our account, or we don't have a source of income to buy that thing. And so why not? Why can't we do the same for them?
Living within your means is very subjective. The whole reason why I am against this, I think it will not work. It's very subjective. Lifestyle is very subjective. Living within your means. Maybe you claim living within your means, or one will claim living within their means because they decided to save a lot of their money. They have maybe children to take care of, they have school fees and things to pay. So we can be earning the same salary, but because of other responsibilities, you would be buying just certain things because you have other responsibilities. I may also not have that responsibility. Okay. So we are taking the same salary, right? But I'm living a quite expensive life. Does that give a presumption, or does that mean that I am getting money from somewhere else? No. So it's very subjective. For what everyone does with their money, I think there's no indicator to measure it. The only indicator is that we look at what you are earning over the period, and we know what you've acquired over the period. So if it's every year, okay, so this year your salary was, let's say 20,000. Over 12 months, you got that with 240,000. Maybe everything allowances and all the emoluments together, you get like 500,000. And you are buying maybe 2 land cruisers within the year. For that one, we can say that you are not living within your means.
Okay.
So that can only be ascertained at the end of a specified period. But for how I spend my monthly income, to say that because I'm buying a lot of expensive clothes and things, I don't think that would really work in my view, because the indicators will not be clear. There will always be a defense to certain things. It's very subjective.
Okay, all right. And so viewers have been discussing Ghana's asset declaration regime, and we've been talking about a number of issues, the weaknesses that this particular law has, and how best we can go around it. The issue of corruption also popped up. But when we come back from the break, we'll be discussing who should be doing the audit and how often, as well as what's the role of the Auditor General is in all of this. And so please do well to stay with us. We'll be back after the break.
The Christian Service University, a fully chartered private university in Ghana, is inviting applications for admission. Undergraduate programs include BSc Nursing and Midwifery, Computer Science, Information Technology, Bachelor of Business Administration, BA Communication Studies, Planning and Social Development, and Theology with Administration. Postgraduate programs include MSc in Accounting and Finance, Monitoring and Evaluation, Corporate Planning and Governance. We have MA MPhil Communication Studies, MA Christian Ministry with Management, Event Management, MPhil English and Mathematics Education. With quality, faculty and state-of-the-art facilities, we blend academic work with entrepreneurial mindset in all our programs. For more information, please call 0246 275375, 0240 154825, or 0244 596603, or visit our website www.csuc.edu.gh. CSU is located at Odenaho Kwadaso on the Kumasi-Obuasi Road, 100 meters off Star Junction. Choose CSU today to secure the future of Africa.
And to make him better known.
We are young but wise, strong yet fragile, soft but tough. We are young people. Join me, the very Reverend Gideon Doche Osabute, as I connect you to the world of young people. It's Why Connect, your new and exciting young people's program, right here on Westland Television. It's Why Connect, connecting youth to Christ. Why Connect? The future is here. See you.
Welcome back, and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us again on the stage. Gentlemen, welcome back. Adam, let me come to you. But who should be doing the audit, and how often should this audit be done?
Well, I think that the first thing is that the auditor general sees with receiving and obviously auditing. They would be responsible for auditing whatever information and confirming that it is a true reflection of what has been filled out. And so they will need some unit there. Now, I think that at the baseline, there needs to be some system that assists them to get those verifications in place. But beyond that, the publication would then be an assistance or a platform that enables all citizens to be part of the auditing. And our understanding must be just that. The public education must be done to ensure that citizens know that the reason why we do this and publicize it is for citizens who know these individuals to go online, to go wherever, and foster that this is a true reflection, so that when we get the baseline right, then the subsequent monitoring that has to be done is easier. The follow-up, also, I think that
would need to be something that is staggered, because there are so many appointees that it will be absolutely impossible and probably a waste of our resources trying to run around check anyone, unless there is some information to suggest that this individual is engaging in actions and earning resources outside what is legitimate in terms of that appointment. So those would be my comments.
Okay. Now, this could also mean that, or it could be that they are intruding into people's privacies. I mean, they had their private lives before they decided to, you know, step in or come in, or, you know, stand for election as parliamentary candidates and being voted for. Would that not be the case?
That's why earlier on I said the offer. There was an earlier question you asked, and I said you are sounding like, why would citizens need this information?
Yeah.
And I would like to emphasize that when you decide to stand for public office, or you are being appointed and you accept, that acceptance is an acceptance that every citizen has a right to know everything that governs, that concerns you, that relates to your affairs. You have given away your privacy from that context. So you can no longer say, we are getting into the business. So that's the point. It's part of the general practice of good governance. You stand for public office, or you offer yourself up, you accept public office. Now the citizens have a right to know what is going on.
Okay. Now, Adam, if you have your own way, if you are given the nod today to have a change in anything concerning the asset declaration law, what would that be?
Oh, I think that the two I mentioned, verification, publication, and I like what my brother said there, the issue of the scope, because we do know that persons hide properties in the names of their wives, children, and other subordinates. It is the reason why I think there's a particular beneficiary ownership issue. Beneficial ownership issues have come up because of that. So yes, we need to also define the scope of what it covers properly within the law.
Okay, Adam, thank you. Now, let's come to you, Kwesi. Let's look at the Auditor General. What is his role in all of this?
Okay, so with respect to asset declaration, he is the one to whom the asset is supposed to be declared to.
Okay.
So if you should go to Article 286 and even the Act 550, as I earlier stated as the legal regime, it mandates the public officials to declare their assets to the Auditor General. So that some have even argued that it's not even that broad to the I mean, he works to the Audit Service, but you don't declare it to the Audit Service, but to the Auditor General. So he is the only one, if you should do a literal interpretation of the law, supposed to know the assets of the public officials. So that is his role in this whole regime.
But who should be doing the audit after you've declared your assets? How do you know that these are the number of things you've listed, and indeed these are the things that you really have? I mean, that is a monitoring aspect. And how often should we be doing this? Okay.
So the Auditor General is definitely the head of the audit service, so that he doesn't do it alone. There's no way he can audit all these public officials alone. So he does it together with the audit service. They are the auditors, so they would. I'm sure they have an internal mechanism of maybe coming around or doing a little verification on the asset. Although this is not grounded in law, and that is why Adam was saying that the bit he proposes the amendment is with a verification. So that yes, you've declared that you have this and this, but there has to be a legal regime backing or expressly stating that there has to be some verification. Okay. So the fact that I've stated that I have 3 cars, 4 cars shouldn't be conclusive, because that is what the literal interpretation of the law brings out now.
Are you saying it could be a false declaration?
It could be a false declaration, because the law, as I'm saying, there might be some internal mechanisms at the Auditor General's office or the audit service to verify. But taking the law properly, so-called, the black letter law, and then having a literal interpretation of it, doesn't really mandate a verification of the declaration. Although there might be one, which I can't really speak to now. But on the face of the law, there is no verification process. And that is why there has to be a provision in the new law, provided there should be a new law, to provide for verification of the asset. And some have even proposed that And that's why some said it should be made public. Because assuming I'm the member of parliament in maybe Takwan Swahim, or I'm using Takwan Swahim because that's where I hail from.
Oh, okay.
I'm the member of parliament for Takwan. I've declared my assets to the Auditor General in Accra.
Okay.
I live in Takwan with the people, or the people in Takwan live with me. So they know my assets. Maybe I would have declared that I have 2 houses. But it's public knowledge in Takwan that maybe I have 5 or 10 houses.
And so you are saying that the onus lies on the citizens to also come in and say something?
Good. And that is why it has to be made public. Okay. So that the citizens can come in, know what their public officials have. And even if they have any information, they can relay the information to the Auditor General or the Audit Service for further audit. So that we shouldn't barely rely on the declaration form or the declaration as made by the public officials. But there has to be that scope or that avenue for people with extra information or other information to bring it on board.
Now let's look at this. You are a legal practitioner, and so if today, just as the president has mentioned, some group of persons who would go through the constitutional review, who would form the committee and then go through the constitution, if you are a part of them today, and this particular section of the act comes to you, which one would you change? What would you add up?
What I'll add, firstly, as I've mentioned,
you're not changing. You're going to add.
What I'm going to change.
Okay.
I don't think the current regime is bad, but it's just insufficient. So not that the law is saying something bad, but there can be more for the law to say. So if you should look at all the criticisms, you realize that it's about adding up. Not about changing anything, because they are declaring to the Auditor General. Some are saying that yes, it should be made public, but still they declare to the Auditor General, and then maybe there should be a provision in the law where the Auditor General actually publishes what he has. So that can be one amendment or one addition I think can be made to the act. The accessibility to the public. Secondly, I would also go with the coverage, as I've maintained here, that it shouldn't just be the officer involved, but together with close associates. An associate has been defined. We can take inspiration from other laws, so that if we should go to the Income Tax Act, I think section 128 or so, it has a definition of what we call an associate, including close family members, business partners. If you're a partner, if you're in a partnership, you're a partner or something. It's not just you declaring your asset, but your close associates, or we can even take the definition from the Anti-Money Laundering Act of politically exposed persons, which includes your close associates, that they should all declare, not just the public official. And thirdly, I would also go with the frequency. That is, it shouldn't be declared 4 years or beginning and at the end. There should be a periodic declaration. Okay. Hopefully, or at best.
Every 7th January?
Yes, every year. Maybe within the first month of the year. It's like filing returns or
tax returns,
documents with the Registrar Department.
Okay, Jerry.
Where at the beginning of every year, for companies, they sometimes give them 4 months or something. You have to file your documents or something. So there should be that regime that at the beginning or periodically there has to be a declaration. I don't think it will be cumbersome for the public officials. Yes. Okay.
Now let's look at the sanctions that are involved in this. There are no laws without sanctions, and so are the sanctions there, and are they deterrent enough?
So if you should take a look at the Constitution itself, the mother law, and even the Act, the sanctions are not prescribed. All it says is that where a public official goes in contravention with the law, then you make a report to SHRAD. And then SHRAD would investigate and they make appropriate recommendations. Most recommendations sometimes they're making it that the person shouldn't hold a public office again. Sometimes they can recommend prosecution. Okay. They don't have prosecuting powers, but they could recommend, and then the Attorney General takes it up from there. And then where the officer involved is an officer of SHRAD, they can't report themselves. So where the officer involved is an officer of SHRAD, that one you report to the Chief Justice. But now the argument is that there has to be, so meaning the current state of the law, we don't have
proper sanctions.
Yes, clearly defined sanctions. So the sanctions are somehow in the discretion of SHRAD, because they sit on the matter.
So SHRAD you have to sit down and discuss
and then decide that okay, for this particular inconsistency with the law, maybe you shouldn't hold the public office again. For you should be made to be prosecuted by the Attorney General or something. So I think sanction-wise, there has to be clearly stated sanctions in the law. So that is, although there will be a determining factor, that is, Shroud or the Chief Justice is going to determine the sanctions applicable. At least if there are listed sanctions that, should we go in contravention, maybe there will be a term of imprisonment, maybe between 2 years and 4 years, or even 6 months and 2 years or something, or there will be a hefty fine. That one would serve as a deterrent, meaning everyone is going to declare their assets among others, or they are going to make sure they comply with the law. If you go to, is it Kenya also? Yes, Kenya has that, where I've forgotten the figure, but it's in millions of shillings as the fine. Yes, that's and then the imprisonment is about 2 years. Yes, a term of 2 years. So there should be that express sanctions in our laws.
Okay. Yes. Adam, finally, before we go, what should be the sanctions if any public official goes contrary to this particular law?
Well, we like to recover anything that you are not supposed to take and then apply some punitive measures. I was a school of thought that we do a lot more community service and stuff like that. Let's not just go jails with people. So let's retrieve whatever it is. If there's a need to consider some interest on it, do that. And also some punitive action that best serves as a deterrent. Those would be my recommendation.
All right, Adam, thank you so much. Thank you for your time and thank you for this insightful discussions we've had so far. Kwesi, finally, before we go, what will be your take on all that we've discussed so far? Okay, so my take on all that we've discussed so far, I mean, moving forward, I think there should be an amendment to the current regime, which is, I mean, not the constitution properly so-called. The act can also bring in some measures, provided it's within the confines of the constitution, so that the current Act 550, which regulates this regime, was made in 1998. I mean, they are older acts, but I think that should be about 27 years. 27 years from now. I think it's time for an amendment. So, if anything, the president, through the appropriate ministry, should lay a bill in Parliament, and then within this 9th Parliament, there should be a new law regulating public officials, the conduct of public officials, with respect to asset declaration. And these persons who are going to deliberate on this particular bill are the same people in the same act. Yes. Do you think that there is a way that they would accept this and make it go through in this term of office, the 4-year term? There should be a way around it. The MPs are representatives of the citizens, right? Ordinarily, if they take the bill there, and I have a point, I should pass it through my MP. It will go to the committee stage of the passage of a bill. They will consider it. Usually, they even call in stakeholders, not just and listen to views from CSOs and other stakeholders, and then factor their point in it. Always, the laws are somehow favoring those in power. Almost all the laws, but they are the ones who always amend it. So I'm sure that yes, although they are the ones to amend it, the president has also made a commitment to fighting corruption together with his appointees. So I'm sure that there should be a way around it, and we'll be fine. All right, Kwesi, thank you so much. But we've been speaking with Adam Senan, who is an anti-corruption campaigner, and Kwesi Chomino, who is a legal practitioner. We've been discussing Ghana's asset declaration regime, and we dug into the merits, the deficiency, and of course the proposed reforms so far. This has been The State. It has been another week with you, and thank you so much for joining us. Christian Service, we say thank you. We'll see you again on Monday. Take good care of yourself and have a blessed weekend.